Okay, today's lesson is general form of a quadratic. So the equation would be y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So a is representing your coefficient of your x squared, b is the coefficient of x, and c would be the constant. We're going to start with an example. So y equals x squared minus 2x minus 8. So the a value would be 1, the b value would be negative 2, and the c value would be negative 8. Now I'm going to show you two ways to get the vertex. So the first way is to do this little formula on your formula sheet, negative b over 2a, to get the x value. So on the formula it has x value of the vertex, and then you're going to plug that value in to get the y. Okay? So I'm going to take negative b, so that's a positive 2 over 2 times a. So that becomes 2 over 2, which is 1. Okay, now let's plug that in. So when I plug it in, it's 1 squared, subtract 2 times 1 minus 8. So you can see what I did. I replaced my x with a 1 because I knew my x value. So this is 1 subtract 2 subtract 8, which is negative 9. And that's my vertex. Okay, now method 2. The vertex is halfway between x-intercepts. Plug in. Okay, that's method 2 to find the vertex. Okay, so for this method, we need our x-intercepts. Okay, so I'm going to go over here, my x-intercepts. So my x-intercepts is where y would be 0. So 0 equals x squared minus 2x minus 8. So to solve for x here, I can't isolate because I have x squareds and x's. So you can see a simple trinomial. I'm going to factor it. So x at the front, and the last spot needs to multiply to negative 8 and combine for negative 2. So my x-intercepts are 4 and negative 2. Okay. So now I'm halfway. I'm going to go 4, add a negative 2, and average that. Okay. So 4 plus a negative 2 is 2 over 2, which is 1. And then I plug it in, 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 8. And that came out to be a negative 9. Okay, so the vertex, you can do vertex by negative b over 2a, which will always work. And you can also find it by going halfway between the x-intercepts, which only works if there are x-intercepts. Okay, so we know how to find x-intercepts. Let's do some other stuff here. Y-intercept. So y-intercept is where x is 0. So y equals 0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 8. 0, 0, and then we would subtract 8. So in other words, your y-intercept is always your c value, okay? Because this is always going to disappear with 0 there. That's going to always disappear. So the y-intercept is c. Okay, let's graph this. So 1, negative 9. 1, negative 9. Is right there. 1, negative 9. Okay, now we have a y-intercept of negative 8. we have x-intercepts of 4 and -2. And we also know that a is our slope. So a is a 1. So we're going to do the same pattern of over, up, 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. So 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 4, back to my vertex, 2, 4, back to my vertex, 3, 9, back to my vertex, 3, 9, and I'm going to graph this. So you can see how my x-intercepts also correlated with doing 3 and 9. Okay, I can ask you other questions. Your axis of symmetry is the vertical line x equals 1. Your domain is -infinity to infinity.
Austin Wall, please report to the office. Austin Wall to the office.
It goes forever left and right. Your range is a height of -9 to infinity, which is a minimum point. So min, because it's the lowest. Okay, let's look at another example. Y equals x squared plus 4x minus 12. Okay, so let's get the x-intercepts and y-intercepts. So x-intercept is where y is 0. So 0 equals, which means I have to factor. So I want to use a 6 and a 2. So x equals -6 and a +2. And my y-intercept is where x is 0. So y equals -12. Okay, now let's get our vertex. Okay, so halfway between a -6 and a +2. So that would be -4 divided by 2 is -2. And I'm going to plug that value in. So -2 squared plus 4 times -2 minus 12. So 4 subtract 8 minus 12 is -16. So that's my vertex. Okay, let's double check. Let's just use this little formula, -b over 2a. So I can check. I'm going to go -b. So my a is 1, my b is 4, my c is -12. So -4 over 2 times 1 is -2. And there we go. That's the x of our vertex. We're obviously going to plug it in the same way and get that. Okay, so let's graph this. I'm just going to draw a general graph here. So I know this. I know a -6. I know a +2 is my x. I know my y-intercept is -12. And I know that my vertex is -2, -16. Okay, I knew that my slope was 1, my a value, so I knew I was going 1, 1, 2, 4. Do you see this? From -2 to 0 is 2. From -16 to 12 was an up 4. Okay, do you see this pattern? From -2 to -6 was over 4. And then we should go up 16, which we do. Okay, so that all makes sense. And then we can talk domain and range. Domain is -infinity to infinity. Range is from -16 to infinity. Axis of symmetry is the vertical line x equals -2. Okay, let's try another one. Y equals x squared minus 16x. Okay, so we're going to go, I'll do my x, my vertex both ways again. -b over 2a. So positive 16 over 2 times 1 is 8. Okay, so I know my vertex is 8 something. So I'm going to plug that 8 in. Y equals 8 squared minus 16 times 8. So that's 64 minus 128. So that's -64. Okay, let's find our x-intercepts. So now y is 0. That's the big thing. X-intercept means y 0. This needs to be factored because it can't be isolated. So this is a GCF, right? Because everything can have an x pulled out of it. So x GCF'd out leaves me with x minus 16. So my solutions for x-intercepts are 0 and positive 16. If you want to find the x of your vertex, go halfway. What's halfway between 0 and 16? 8. Do you see how we also got that there? So that's just another way to do it. Okay, let's do our y-intercepts. So that's where x is 0. So what happens? Your y-intercept is 0. So let's graph this. We got 0 and positive 16 are the x-intercepts. 0 is the y-intercept. And 8, -64. Is the vertex. So you can see that y, the vertex is halfway in between the x-intercepts for the symmetry purpose. You can see that that's what's happening. And let's just check this out. If I go from 8 to 16, that moves over 8 up 64. And that follows the pattern of a slope of 1, which is what our a value is. Okay, let's do another one here. What if I give you this? I'm just going to ask you to find the vertex and the slope. Okay, so the vertex, you go x to the vertex is -b over 2a, which is positive 16 over 2 times 2. 16 over 4 is 4. Now you plug that value in. So y equals 2 times 4 squared plus 6, or minus 16 times 4 plus 30. Okay, so we do this squared, 16 times 2, so that's 32, minus 64 plus 30, which ends up being -2. Okay, so that's your vertex. What's your y-intercept? So that's where x is 0. And we also realize that those are going to go away, so your y-intercept is just going to be the c. And your slope, that's your coefficient a. So my slope is 2. So I'm going to be going in a up direction, and I'm going to go over 1, up 2, over 2, up 8, over 3, up 18. So what does that look like? 1, 2, 3, 4, -2. So this is going to go over 1, up 2, over 1, up 2, over 2, up 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Your y-intercept at 30, sorry, I probably didn't have that on the screen. 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 8, 2, 8. Your y-intercept of 30 makes sense. It's going to keep going and cross up here at a height of 30. X-intercepts, so those came out to be exact numbers, so let's see what we can do there. X-intercepts, so 0 equals 2x squared minus 16x plus 30. I can see a GCF factor. Taking out a 2, x squared minus 8x plus 15. Then I can see a simple trinomial. So I lead with an x, a 5 and a 3, both negative, ends up getting me a -8, positive 15. So my x-intercepts are 5 and 3, which 5 and 3 are on my graph. I also know that the x of my vertex is halfway between, which would have been a 4. So you can see all those connections to those things.